So what we'll be doing for the remainder of this morning until we reconvene here at 11:30 is to meet up again in the groups that we were part of yesterday. So again, here's just a brief reminder of which group you're part of. And the goal now is to take what we developed over the past 4 sessions and really hone it into something that you feel comfortable handing off to the writing team that's going to convene this afternoon and then further down the line to generate the actual products out of this summit. So as you think about that, we saw that pretty much every one of the breakout groups came up with a very nice set of recommendations. We already reviewed some of them jointly yesterday. You can see that there's themes evolving, there's convergence. Within your groups, don't worry about what you've heard from some of the other groups, but rather concentrate on turning these recommendations into something that is focused and sharp enough and specific enough that we can use this down the line. And so in order to do that, we're basically asking you to do 3 things. First of all, as you recall from yesterday, some of the recommendations were already bundles of an actual recommendation and specific tasks or activities that people had identified. And so what we want you to do now is really separate the recommendation, and I'll give you an example here in a minute, separate the recommendation from the specific tasks and the timeline that's associated with those tasks, specific actions that need to be taken. And as you think about actions and timelines, really for us, there's the one important if you will, time stamp that we're considering, and that is, of course, the next Arctic Observing Summit in 2014 in Helsinki. That is coming up very, very fast, and as you've seen during this meeting, it's important to be as specific and as focused about the points that you'd like to see addressed and be completed prior to or during the next summit. So if you think about tasks and specific actions that tie directly into the next summit, that needs to be developed very well. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about that this afternoon after lunch when we essentially review what we've been able to accomplish here during the past two and a half days and where that's going to lead. And the other piece that's quite important now as well is, again, because of the fact that some of these activities are going to be associated with fairly short timelines, is to be clear about who these recommendations are targeting and who you would see be part of these various tasks and activities. And that can be various partners that are already present here at the summit. We may direct some high priority or high level recommendations directly to the SEAN board. Clearly, the summit is going to need help from SEAN as a link into the world of the Arctic Council, some of the higher level funding agencies, but some of it may also play out in IASC working groups or other international programs. So what would this look like? Well, here's an example. Don't pay too much attention to what's actually in here. This originated out of one of the breakout groups, but the recommendation in this case was to improve cooperation and collaboration with the private sector for long-term Arctic observations. That's something that's come up in various breakout groups. So we'll use the material that we're getting from these different groups to develop an overarching recommendation on this. And then, of course, specific tasks might include, and again, these are just examples from one breakout group, that the World Ocean Council will lead an initiative to gather industry partners to discuss Arctic data sharing, measurement coordination, and joint observing programs. And the specific product will be an actual report for the next Arctic Observing Summit. Again, in order to ensure that the next summit is actually successful in doing that, sticking to the timeline, and as you'll see here, the third specific action is to involve the private sector partners early on in the planning process for the next summit is going to be critical. So again, that's a very specific action. And in the middle there you see another action that involves more this group of people here, and that is to identify successful case studies of private-public partnerships that can serve as a model or as a template for what we'd like to see happen. Now, you might say, well, okay, private-public partnerships, you know, I'm living in a community where our relations with the private sector are very different. If that's the case, again, be sure to include specific comments or alternate views that may emerge from your working group as well. And as we said in the past, we still have these fairly empty pieces of paper up on the wall. If there's things that you feel after these 2.5 days that weren't addressed properly or that you feel need to be highlighted further or taken up at the next summit, put that out there, or make sure it gets into the write-up from your working group, because those will be considered. And then the final point here, again, target audience here is very clearly defined, so you can read that yourself.